Okay, we are recording. Kenny, how are you today?
I'm very well, thanks. Your face has just gotten blanked out by a little box of tricks there.
I'm loving this. So for
It's because
listeners,
it said it's because you said it's being recorded.
right? Okay, this is fantastic because bizarre. I mean, I find this quite bizarre, and I'm going to ask a little bit more about this. This is the first time you've used Zoom, Kenny.
Very first time.
I mean, that must have been a lonely lockdown, mate.
No, I avoided all of the nonsense and just got out and about.
Yeah.
No, I've for forever I've avoided these digital applications. So I've never done social media. For a while I still have an email address, but for a while I had a BlackBerry that Derek here kind of urged me into, but that would be the late noughties.
Yeah.
And avoided a mobile phone number for a long time. And then by the time I realized that things had moved on quite as far as they had with technology, I was still like on the digital sort of abacus, really. I was struggling with texts and the reply all getting me into lots of trouble. And so it was. I just ducked out of it. So now I have no Wi-Fi, no mobile phone. I've never signed up for direct debits. So I don't do any online anything if I can avoid it, including this. So I've avoided it.
I mean, I think that's a world that we'd all like to live in, and I find it really daunting, the thought of trying to sort of to do that, but I guess that's the dream, right? If you can sort of live your life without any of that, it's going to be a far more calmer place, right?
Oh, way calmer. And when people, it's actually harder for other people because they have to I become the guy that people can't get a hold of last minute, and they can't change any sort of itineraries last minute. And there's no texting me to say, I'll just be another 10 minutes. So, because if they are another 10 minutes, I've gone.
Yeah.
So it slows life down quite a lot.
Yeah.
And it was remarkably easy because I live in a village just further along the East Nuke, and there's no mobile reception anyway. So a mobile phone was next to useless. I had to get rid of my broadband because it just broke, and BT refused to fix it. That was that simple. So, after 6 months of paying for a service that is never going to work again, I was already used to not having any of that. And as the years have gone on, I refused to pay my band with bank transfers. I'm still a check and cash guy.
Yeah.
So there's many things that I dodged anyway. Never had an Apple Pay or anything like that, PayPal. And then as far as websites go, one of my pals who actually lives here in Ely, he dealt with all the internet, the updating of domain names and keeping everything on track. So he dealt with it, and I just went, I'm not interested. And I don't know the side of life where people all get together in some sort of common knowledge that they all know what they all read on social media that week.
Yeah.
And so don't talk about it.
Yeah.
I assume that I do know what has all gone on. Yeah. So it can be quite a silent world because nobody talks anymore. They all just assume that everybody knows.
I think you're winning. I really do. I think you're winning. You're definitely getting it right, because I think we could all do with just coming off the gas a little bit with technology.
So the things you need to do is you need to get yourself a watch, because a lot of phone usage I found was just checking the time.
That's so true.
So if you get a watch and then you get one of these little notepads.
I remember them.
Yeah, they're like I'm going to say they're A6, but they're the tiny ones. But they're roughly the size of a mobile phone. Or you could go back to smoking and but as long as there's the thing that you check every day that you leave the house, you go, wallet, keys, and that thing in that pocket.
Yeah.
And then I tell you, man, within 2 weeks, you don't miss your phone. It took 2 weeks.
Wow.
But then I wasn't a huge phone user anyway. I used to leave it everywhere and nowhere.
Yeah.
Now I've got glasses to worry about. These aren't actually my glasses. These are just magnifiers because I'm losing them all the place. But
Yeah.
but yeah, go for it. You should try it. It's great. It is
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. It's like, I find it like doing this sort of podcast, and this is completely sort of DIY and trying to sort of, you know, sort of monetize it in any way possible. And it's you know, it's not a very easy thing to do. And I do sort of rely on getting the word out about it on social media. And I'm kind of sort of not chained to it, but it is free marketing. And when you haven't got money for a marketing budget, it's like, right, we've got to kind of use what's at the disposal. But I do find if I go on there to post about an episode, before you know it, I'm just scrolling through absolute shit, and it's not good for the head. It's really not.
And that's where the cost of it comes, because it's not free on your time.
Yeah.
It's not free on your mental health. It's not free on your stress levels. And you know, I turned up here in Ely today wearing an actual tinfoil hat because I get terrible tinnitus and vertigo. And this last 10 days, I've basically had to build a little Faraday cage inside my hat. And it has aided my sleepless nights. It has taken a little bit of the edge off my anxieties. And my tinnitus has not gone, because it'll never go, but it's definitely calmed down. Now that a skeptic will say there's many other factors involved in that, and I'm sure there are. But I don't have Wi-Fi at home, and I do notice that if I'm ever trying to sleep in a place with Wi-Fi, well, I don't sleep as well.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's like allergies. So there's a few things that point to, well, it's EMF radiation, isn't it? So your 5G, your microwaves, your 5G, 6G, whatever else is going on, things like tinnitus, vertigo, sleeplessness, an increase in allergies, they're all related. It's just mild radiation poisoning, really.
Yeah.
So I'll try anything. I'll try anything before I go to a doctor. And when I was at my chiropractor on Wednesday night, I thought he'd laugh me out of the shop, but no. He told me a story of a physics professor at St Andrews Uni who built a Faraday cage around his smart meter at home, and his wife's health improved overnight.
Wow.
So they know about it.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, isn't it just France have banned the iPhone 15 for its radiation?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they health hazards.
Yeah.
One more picture.
One more picture.
One more picture, guys. And you need to crack on.
Right, let's do this. Yeah. Right, okay.
Okay, right. Kenny, I'm going to ask you for track one to tell me the song that you regard as having the greatest ever intro, please.
So it's by Talk Talk, and it's getting late in the evening.
I mean, let's talk about Talk Talk, because I mean they're from my neck of the woods. They're Essex boys, and I mean, one of the things that I think kind of sometimes gets overlooked with Talk Talk is, you know, a phenomenal band, but I don't think enough emphasis ever gets put on just how unique Mark's voice was. Like, I don't think it sounds like anything else.
Yeah, well, and the evolution of the band that still held that voice. It's not like his voice, as unique as it is, was ever out of place. Whether with the electro sort of synth pop beginning, right the way to this sort of avant-garde jazz influenced, and as his records went on, he kind of sang less and less.
Yeah.
And yet his voice, you'd think it's somebody that's that's got a unique voice like that, you'd almost think it would be the opposite. That once he found his voice, because singers all merge from a younger trying to be a singer into somebody that's happy in their own vocal cords, if you like. That just takes time, and it takes confidence, and it takes not caring about what anybody thinks. And usually when that happens, vocalists tend to use their voice more. But he did it the other way around. I mean, he's famous for saying, if you've got the choice of 3 notes and 2, pick the 2 notes. But if it's 2 notes and 1, pick the 1 note. And if it's 1 note or silence, go for silence. Yeah. And he did that with his own vocals. And I think it's that the spirit, because I think most voices, it doesn't matter how good a voice, if you hear it too often, it becomes annoying.
Yeah.
And that's the curse of, like myself, who's done so many albums. People are annoyed by my voice, and I get it, because I am. But Mark Hollis was very, very, very shrewd, I think, and he realized that in order for that not to happen, and you concentrate more on each syllable because of that, and then you realize just how good a voice the man had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he did less with it. And I mean, on these later records, especially the solo Mark Hollis album, I mean, he's whispering through that.
Yeah.
And yet he could, when you see him sing live, I mean, he's proper, like, he's almost got a bagpipe player's neck.
Yeah, yeah. Like
the effort he puts in. So he was able to belt it out with the best of them, and yet the control. So I was a fan of the entire package, but having read the book by the engineer, is it Phil Brown, in which he talks about the last 2 Talk Talk albums and then the solo Mark Hollis album. If you haven't read it, you should definitely read what Mark Hollis put that band through to achieve, Laughing Stock and yeah. So. But yeah, that it's getting late in the evening. I got it as the B-side. First heard it as the B-side to Life's What You Make It.
Yeah.
And as an intro, it's utterly beguiling, and it gives you absolutely zero hint as to what is coming next. And even now I can play that track and it still throws me. I'm like, oh, what's this again?
Yeah.
A song that I've played I don't know how many times. I mean, if you'd asked for what was the best middle 8 in a song, I would have picked It's Getting Late in the Evening as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's just, I think it's a momentous piece of work, and yet it never went on any of the official albums.
Yeah.
And to throw it away as a B-side, it's like wow. I mean, most bands would give everything to have It's Getting Late in the Evening as in song that, Anyway, absolutely brilliant song.
Am I right in saying that you contributed a track to a Talk Talk tribute record?
Yes, I did, but I've always been in 2 minds about the covering songs. I mean, I do it live, but when you put it onto record, it's almost like you upset everybody. You upset the fans. How dare you think that you can,
Do you think so?
Yeah, and these people are always the loudest to comment as well.
Yeah, but they're if you love it, you probably just enjoy it. But if you don't like it, then people generally complain, right? But they should shut up.
Yeah, people should remember that if you've nothing good to say nothing.
Completely.
But and then there's your own, and then it's embarrassing if your own. Well, I've got very few fans and had at the time, but if they jump on it in a sort of, oh, now the song makes sense or some nonsense, it's like, oh God, this is a cringe. So my best anecdote of that is when Malcolm Middleton covered one of my songs, and on the flip side, I covered one of his, and that 7-inch single lost us half of both our fans. Yeah, right. Okay, let's go.
Fantastic.
Derek's chat.
You got to finish at 10:50.
10:50, right. Okay, let's do this. Next.
Okay, next track. I'm going to ask you for the first song you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
So it's The Most Beautiful Girl by Charlie Rich.
Right.
I was probably 3 or 4 years old. We were on a family holiday to Aviemore with neighbours. One of those neighbours being Mrs. Gibbs, who I was just besotted by, even at that age. And she looked like, there's a very famous painting that through the 70s of a dark-haired woman curled around a tree.
Yeah.
It's one of these kits. She looked like that, right? Like something out of an early Elvis Hawaiian kind of movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got to the chairlift, and she was terrified of getting on the chairlift, and was having histrionics, was crying, my mum and dad were like, "It'll be all right," and the Most Beautiful Girl came on the radio, and the crying and the beautiful Mrs. Gibbs, and yeah, that was it. Whoosh. that was the dream.
And if you had to sort of pinpoint what that emotion was, what was it?
Well, I suppose sympathy, caring, just the agony of loss, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay.
I just got it right there and then through that entire kind of scenario somehow, and I've never forgotten. And even when I hear the song now, it's
it's a beautiful, beautiful record. For track 3, Kenny, I'm going to ask you to tell me about the song that reminds you of your time at school, please.
Yeah, Pink Floyd's The Wall. We don't need no education, but when I went to Corryment High School in St Andrews, so this is like I went there at the end of 1979, autumn 1979, and then that track came out when I was in my first year. And when I was in my first year at high school, Grange Hill was very much one of the and I found I couldn't watch Grange Hill. I just found it too bleak. And when I went to high school, I realized that all high schools were that bleak. Now, I always thought Pink Floyd's The Wall was quite a bleak sounding song. I mean, I like it more now. In fact, I think it's excellent. But back then, the creepy kids choir and it just cemented the Dark Nights, this 60s monstrosity of a school. It was a big school. It was full of terrors. I was a wee guy. It just encapsulates the whole thing. The terror, the Dark Nights, what am I doing here? Life to start with The Most Beautiful Girl and end up with The Wall,
But the thing is as well,
right by 10 years.
Yeah, and the thing is with The Wall as well, I mean, again, we're probably not too dissimilar in age, and seeing the video for The Wall on Top of the Pops as well was equally as harrowing. Just sort of seeing these people being put in a mincer and just being minced, it was like, oh my God.
It was really, really grim. And I loved, at the time, I was into all sorts of, I loved Blondie, and I was into the Jam, and and then this thing came along, and it's like it almost ruined the chart for a while.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? It just hung around. And it was just, and I mean, I got used to turning the chart off at the top 3. I mean, in '82 I was championing Dexys the whole way, and it was great when they got to number 1. But when they slipped from number 1 with "Come On Eileen," I mean, I was gutted.
Yeah,
I was just like, oh, it's over.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was but The Wall. It's not that I mean, as I say, I love it now, but back then, it just cemented the terror of going to high school.
So you didn't enjoy school?
I did not enjoy school. Moments of it, and I liked my group of pals, but and I was good at school as well. I was just too scared. I did ask awkward questions a lot. I've always done that, but not if I would never put my hand up in class if I knew the answer. I never did. The terrors were, and now Kenneth, you'll translate this Latin passage. So I tried to keep my head low and just get through it.
Are you sort of, was that a response to, I guess, certainly, from where I was growing up and going to school, it wasn't cool to be bright or inquisitive you know, that wasn't what the cool kids wanted to be doing. Is that pretty much what it was for you?
Well, I got into a gang that, I'm not saying it was cool, but there was enough of us were competitive enough in that way. But I think it was just that I was never in any of the sports teams or anything,
Yeah.
or I was just shy. I was immature, or certainly I always looked really young. I'm not tall. I don't have the stature to. So, I mean, I was a fast runner.
That's always handy.
But there must have been something about me, because I didn't get into that many scrapes. So I don't know if it was the gift of the gab under pressure, or if maybe I looked a bit crazier than I was, or something.
Yeah.
But most of the bullies left me alone, which was weird, because I was terrified of them all, terrified of everything. And certainly a few teachers, but I didn't try at all at school, and yet I just sailed through it. I found maths, physics, languages, geography. I found it all incredibly easy, and I had a very good short-term memory. So I'm straight A's all the way, without even. And my mum and dad never pushed me to study. I was just left to it, meaning it was all last minute.
Yeah.
I was always 3 minutes late every morning. I don't know. It's not a blur, because I could remember lots of individual moments at school, but none of them with me in the starring role, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I was a real bystander, and a real, like, maybe that's how I never got picked on.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get through it with no fuss. If there had been a time traveling device, you know, if you'd step in here now, you will miss these years, I would have done it.
Did you have any idea what you wanted to do when you left school?
No, none at all. But I was steered towards electronics. Well, in my 5th year, I was given 4 choices. It was accountancy, law, medicine, or engineering. And I remember saying, but it must be more than that. I quite enjoy art. And they're like, no, with your grades, and we've looked at what, that's it. And I was like, oh, well, it has to be engineering. No, that was it. Off to Edinburgh I go. And it was through university I realised not maybe what I wanted. Well, I realised what I wanted to do with my life. I became a recording junkie.
Yeah.
From aged 18. That's all I did for 4 years at Edinburgh. Yeah. And my last minute kind of short-term memory really started to fail me as the years went through, and I kept trying to get out of uni, only to look, first year is just a revision of 6th year, it'll get better. End of 2nd year. Look, just do 1 more year, you've got an ordinary. End of 3rd year. Well, look how quickly that went, you know. Yeah. And so on. So I finished, and I got whatever I got, 2-1 and something, handed it over to my mum, and went off busking for 2 years around Europe. So you can imagine the shame of that. We're black affronted.
Kenny, I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me the first song you remember buying from a record shop, please.
Right, so it was the 12-inch single of Swansway's Soul Train.
Yeah.
Now, when I was maybe, what age would I be when I got? Remember the little plustron? They had a little television, they had a radio, and a tape deck on the top.
Yeah.
Do you remember those?
You had one of them?
Yeah. I still got one.
Wow.
So I used to tape from the tube. Tape was primed.
Yeah.
And then I would it was on pause, and I always tried to edit out, you know, Jules Holland's voice or whomever, and, you know, go. And if it was a song I wasn't into, I would just stop it, rewind, and try and get the next one.
Yeah.
And I think Swansway, when they came on, and I just caught it, and I couldn't believe that a song like this in the 80s had arrived with this haunting cello and sort of drive. It was just a snare, a cello, and him singing, or so it seemed from their live act. And I wore that tape out listening to that song, and I recorded it at a time when I was too afraid to go into the local record shop.
Why was that?
The guy was too cool, and I was shy.
What, high fidelity type stuff?
Yeah, and well, in all shopping sprees, I can only buy the thing I want. Even now, I can't go shopping. I've got to know what I want, know who's got it, hang the price. I'm just going to walk in. I want that. I pay for it. I leave.
Yeah.
That's it. And so, yeah, the arse is out my jeans, but I hate shopping for anything unless I know exactly the thing. The terror of having to try something on in the shop. No thanks.
I totally get what you're saying. I'm the same.
Even worse than that is having to go back and exchange something. I mean, it's
Oh, God.
mortifying. No, I would
Yeah.
rather just walk around. I mean, I've torn trousers up rather than take them back. Sorry, Dad, but I did that. Yeah, I couldn't face going into that shop unless I knew exactly what it was. And anyway, this tape had worn out. I was like, I absolutely just have to get this.
Yeah.
Now, of course, when I went in there and asked for, could you imagine, nervous trying to ask for the 12-inch version of Swan's Ways Soul Train? Could you imagine that? It just came out like a stream of nothing. But eventually, through tears and frustration, I think I wrote it down for the guy, and he ordered it in, and then back I went, straight in.
Yeah.
Money counter, don't want the change, grab the record, get out of there
Yeah.
as fast as I could get. And I'm sure the guy was perfectly nice.
Yeah.
But it was full of guys that had headphones on, and
Yeah.
all spinning a bit of vinyl and asking really hip cat questions about some. And here's me like, oh, they're going to laugh at this.
Yeah.
Swan's Way.
Yeah.
Check out this little idiot, buy this rubbish, all that. So yeah. So it was a while until I bought something else, put it that way. But yeah, that was my first.
So I mean, I know you don't like shopping, but as the years have gone on, and did you ever kind of sort of enjoy the experience of literally just crate digging, I guess, and flicking through the records? And did that become something that you enjoyed, or was just the whole kind of high fidelity elitism of the guy behind the counter thing too much?
Now, through uni, I'd go to an HMV or whichever shop in Edinburgh, and I would just get the thing I wanted.
Yeah.
And we'd go straight onto my Walkman. I always bought albums before I got on the stagecoach to Aberdeen, because my girlfriend was in Aberdeen at the time. And so that's how I first heard Spirit of Eden, from a cassette on a Walkman. And the only bit that made sense to me in Spirit of Eden in the first listen, because I'm still stuck in the Colour of Spring, having played that. The only bit that really made sense was like track 4, Start of Side 2, and that came on just as I went over the Forth Road Bridge, as it was. And when that choir comes in, is it I Believe in You?
It is.
The choir came in, the stagecoach went over the hump of the Forth Bridge, and it was almost a kind of epiphany of spiritual, it was everything, euphoria, music will save everybody type thing. And so, and then the only time I really got into the sort of really going, I was staying in a place called Motley and recording Analog Catalogue. So Mosley's tied onto Manchester, one of the milling towns, and it's built on a steep hill. And I went down into the village, and I found this second-hand emporium of everything. Like, it was this gigantic double warehouse of absolutely everything. And I just thought, I wonder if they've got records in here. Did they have records? They had like the 7-inch singles, the 12-inch singles, and I was just going through them all, hoovering up anything I could get from the 80s that I either had and lost, but it was mainly singles that I never bought in favor of buying the album when it came out. Do you remember that? You didn't have the money to buy singles then. So when I was at school, I was buying 12-inch singles, and then I'd buy albums on cassette. 12-inch to get a different version of the song, but the 12-inch singles were great for giving you an idea as to where the band's head were actually at. The songs that never made the grade, never got the flashy treatment, and that gave you a good gauge of where the album might land. I found. So when it came to me finding this treasure trove of 7-inch singles, I filled cases and cases of 7-inch singles. I bought hundreds of them, and they were all like 10 pence, 15 pence. This would be like in 2005 maybe, and that's probably the only time I've gone back and back and back again, and I was trying to find our friend's Electric, Gary Newman. That was the one that eluded me for ages.
That's a fantastic piece of pop music, that is.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And I finally got it, but I must have gone through hundreds of singles, and that kind of broke me into going to Groucho's in Dundee. I didn't mind hanging out there, but weirdly, I bought as many sort of secondhand hi-fi sets and stuff out of Groucho's than I did. Right. No, I used to leave with a pile of 12-inch singles. But as I got older, I'm saying into my 40s at this point, I didn't care if anybody thought that a 12-inch single of Duran Duran was, I didn't care.
Yeah.
I needed to have that to complete. And I've just got hundreds of these things.
Wonderful.
I'm actually maybe going to do a DJ set tonight, just for like a half hour, in a place called Bread and Butter along in Anstruther. And I only ever DJ 80s.
Yeah.
I don't crossfade or anything, but I've got a good sense of what song would follow, tempo wise. And I haven't said it, I'm going to jinx it, but I get some really good kind of, wow, that just, so yeah.
Fantastic. Tell me the song that is your kind of sort of late night, early morning listen.
Yeah, so I wasn't. Yeah, when you said late nights, I was thinking about did you mean party banging tracks? But I've never really. Well, you could probably tell by the music I write, I'm not that kind of, not really into that so much. So I went for the early morning.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of all the. What could anything that's blissed out. But then I remember, it's a few years back. I'm not a great sleeper, and I'm going to say it was December 2016 or something like that. And I just kind of came to hearing this track on the radio. And I hadn't heard it ever before that, could you believe? I don't listen to opera or, and I just had to get the name of it written down and just find it, and to find it, the only thing I could find was on one of these most relaxing classical ever type thing, and I looked at that, and there's always a lot of dross on these things. Well, I can't say it's dross because it's all above what I do, but yeah, stuff I'm not interested. But I bought it double set just to get O Mio Babino Caro. And then, I just thought, well, that's as good as any. In fact, it's probably better than most.
Yeah.
So it was going to be that. It was going to be that, or Gorecki's Symphony No. 3. Something in that kind of lulling, hopeful, heartbreaking. It's a classical version of The Most Beautiful Girl, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you use it?
Yeah, do you not think?
No, no. Do you wait? Is that one of the things that you do in the morning? If you wake up, the first thing you do is put music on.
Oh, sorry, I misheard that.
Sorry.
No, actually. The last thing at night, I would probably to try and sleep.
Yeah.
But when I get up, no. Well, I'm going to say something now that I've been really anxious over the last sort of 3 years. And I've fallen down the wormhole of modular synths.
Oh dear.
And tape loops I've always been into. So I've seen me wake up at 3 a.m. in a right state, and I just go straight to the modular or start cutting up tape loops. And I've been using music to calm me down this last while.
To listen or to create?
To create and to just soothe the waves. So yes, I suppose I do put music on, but it's if I wake up in some kind of agitated way, I would do it. Whereas if I wake up normally, I just get up and out.
Yeah.
Sometimes without even taking the Weetabix.
Yeah.
Straight. I've always been like that though. Even as a kid, I just got up and left.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get up and go out. I just go out.
Where?
Where? Well, I might go to the shop. I might just have to I have to just get out.
Yeah.
That's why today was a gift, because I was up really early, actually 6 o'clock, and I'm a big fan of Farming Simulator, so I was able to calm the waves without making too much noise today. But yeah, I'm just up now. Get up, get out.
Fantastic. I'd love to know your favourite song from an artist from your home county, please.
So this is, Milton Balgoni, real name Pete Cura. And when my band came back from busking, this is the end of 1991, and we started to try and get local gigs. So we had a bluegrass band. And we were trying to get local gigs, and we very quickly ran into the sort of Fife music scene, or a sort of, you're going to have to stand on the shoulders of giants type. Here's the ones that came before. And so we heard about this band, Milton Balgoni and the Balgoni Boys, and it was Pete Cura. He was given, it was like a bet. Could he put together a tour around the ex-mining towns of West Fife? So he accepted the challenge. And that tour was called Around the Bings in 80 Days. And his band was a three-piece. So it was Milton Balgoni, and they all had the spoof names of places in Fife. So there's a place, Milton of Balgoni, right, in Fife. They had John F. Kennaway, and they had Gary Cooper as in the town of Fife. And this song, Mary Marquis Kens My Feather, well, Mary Marquis used to be on the Grampian News, I think. She's like one of these Scottish kind of personalities back in the 70s when we had like 3 channels, or early 80s. And it's quite raucous. It's like, Mary Marquis kens my feather. Mary Marquis kens my feather. And it just makes me laugh. And I've never forgotten. And Pete Cura was a great beat poet. He died recently, cancer, just early 60s, a real tragedy. But and he ran a picture framing gallery in Cooper. And I was with Scooby-Doo Orchestra. I wanted a song as good as Mary Marquis kens my feather.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, look, this is your last track. Kenny, I'm going to ask you, please, to tell the listeners of this podcast about a song that you love that you would like them to hear. So my long-suffering girlfriend, HMS Jennifer, she's got a song. It's I think I mistitled it. It's not That Stain on My Skirt. I think it's That Stain on Your Skirt. So it's
Sorry, I'm just closing mail to stop these pings.
Bing.
I've just been told that I can do that. I'm a Luddite as well. So there you go.
Excellent.
No more pings.
Did you get pings all the way through it?
Yeah.
Did you get them at your end?
I didn't know.
Oh, right. Okay, that's good.
Here.
Yeah, so let's see. That stain on your skirt. So it's like a duet. So I'd sing, that stain on your skirt. And then she'd go, and I can explain. I've just been at the dentist and I missed the drain, or whatever, right? So and then it's got an amazing punchline. And the punchline is, and I'll say, and what about the smell of semen? And then she'll say, Kenny, you must be dreaming. It was that bottle of thick bleach I spilled when I was cleaning.
Semen and dreaming, what an amazing rhyme.
So,
it's Shakespearean.
it's good, isn't it?
It's a Shakespearean.
So there is a live version of Jen and I singing That Stain on Your Skirt from years back. And you can find it. It was a guy, Pete Rabjohns, filmed it. We just sang it at his house and he put it up. And it's had about 13 views. So I don't think any of the 13 are maybe regular listeners of yours. But as a very funny sort of pastiche of a country song,
yeah,
it's an absolute gem. It's only 2 verses. It'll not take up much of your time. And each, you know, that straw in your hair, you know, and just, yeah, it's brilliant.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, look, we spoke about lots of other people's music before we wrap this up, because I know you've got another interview coming up shortly. Tell me about what's going on with your music.
So we've got over the last 3 years, we've got a record finished, yay, called Days, and it comes out in November, start of November. I think we've released 3 tracks already. We managed to get a sort of double-A sided single together at the end of 2020. And then it just took that long. I refused to go into studios with all the cleaning and the one at a time, and it's not for me. So it's my keyboard player Derek that did it all in his home studio, but he's an engineer at Chem 19, so we got to use Chem 19 for live drums and that sort of thing. And it's very much kind of it's like a lot of the records started on my home recording machines. So all the songs were written after 2016, but before the cataclysm of 2020.
Yeah.
Couple that, you know, that I've written in 2020 that I've stayed well clear of my personal views on. And yeah, so we got that done, and it's out in November. It's only 9 songs, but there's a drone comes with it that's about 40 minutes long, the drone.
Yeah.
Drone in B sharp. So it's effectively a double, but only because there's a drone of 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And so, but as I say, that's all largely been done by my keyboard player Derek since 2020 when we started on it. The work I did on that record was all done pre-2020, you know, from home.
Yeah.
I since went back in and, you know, did accordion solos or did vocals. Not all. Some of the vocals stayed from back in the day, and then at home I'm still recording furiously. It's like modular synths all the way, tape loops. My lyrics have gotten very kind of political, shall I say? A lot of dissent in there, which doesn't really fit the King Creosote mold. I feel King Creosote's more of a kind of looking inward and not so much pointing the finger. So I'm not sure where it's going to go next, but to avoid any, you know, censorship and all that, and Big Brother and the cancel culture, I've largely been making instrumentals. And if I use my voice, it's as an effect. So that's kind of where my head's at, but it's kind of weird to step back into the pre-2020 world. And here this record's all pre-2020, but a lot of the themes are still relevant because a lot of the songs were written in the lead up to my 50th and in the aftermath of. So a lot of the songs are very much about looking back and try to get my head around dying. And one of the songs, Blue Marble, The Elm Trees, when I turned 50, I was actually going to kill off King Creosote altogether. That was one of the ideas. Just put a stop to it and do something else. Yeah. And, you know, with each album you do, there seems to be greater and greater expectations, and it's not often I find I can meet those expectations. So that was one of my plans. I would just put an end to King Creosote and have a last hurrah, revisit my back catalogue. And then, yeah, what happened? We got live gigs to do from Scotland with Love, which is an older project. And then I just missed the 2018, the sort of recording every 2 years. I just missed that window. And so it just got pushed forward. Yeah. So yeah, the songs are all pre-2020, apart from 2. And I've been very careful about what I've said in those songs. And just, I don't know, I think it will chime with now, because there's a lot of people just wanting to etch out the last 3 years. But it's been such an anxious time for me that I can't just etch it out. It's like a lot of bad things went on and are still going on. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
But a lot of the songs are about mortality.
Yeah.
Mortality
as Derek says, a lot of the songs are about my mortality and my.
And you're very funny about it as well.
And yeah, just kind of trying to, and within the record, I'm actually trying to recap various styles that I've. So a lot of the tail outs of songs will mirror the sort of John Hopkins era. My fascination with tape loops and samples that are off kilter, they're all in there. The band that played on it, they all did that in the sort of 2020, 2021, everyone's stuck at home kind of mode. So they all played basically down the email wires, however that works. Leave that to Derek. And it was a lot of the parts played by the band ended up in different places or got looped or got cut up, and so it's a real produced record, I would say, which is different from the ones that came before that were more like band performance type ones. So that's, I think, where it differs. But to be humble about it, I only write in so many different styles, and I do rely on a sort of a production element. So if you think back to like Casey Rules OK, that was the early's influence. And then there's John Hopkins. And then I did a record with Paul Savage at Chem 19. It was very sort of 80s electro. That never really came out. But so I kind of rely on somebody taking the same old that I produce and giving it, because in my imagination, my songs go everywhere.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, right, we're recording, I just fall back to, I'll just use the two chords and, falsetto it. Put I'm not giving away all my tricks. I'm not. It does sound like a King Creosote record. Of course it does, because my voice is my voice, and style is a song that I write. That's it. But in terms of its sort of sound palette, it goes quite far, I think. There's a lot of synth work. As I say, there's a couple of songs that have got the modular synth racket through it, that evolving, is it in, is it out, is it, and I'm really happy with it. I'm delighted with it. I could always sing better on these records. But there's one song called Ide. It's a sort of piano co-write with Derek, or Des as we call him, Des Lawson. It's a co-write with him, and I don't think I've sung. If I have sung better on a record, I can't name the song. I actually nailed it, and it's a hard song to sing. It goes into falsetto, it comes back down. It kind of does all these things that I think on a good day I can do, and more often than not, when I'm in a studio, I'm just not on the best day. But this time around, I was on the best day.
Fantastic. Kenny, I can't wait to hear the record. I wish you all the success with it, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, and for making it your first venture into the world of Zoom. I feel very privileged that it was to have this conversation.
My Zoom cherry has been popped.
And I'm aware you've got another interview right now, so I will love you and leave you, and thank you once again for your time today, mate. It's been really, really lovely. Thank you. Feel
free to edit into that, please, and take out what you like.
It was fine, mate. It was fine. Lovely to meet you both. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
bye.
Cheers.